I want to begin with a rather somber note today, because the week before Christmas, I traveled to war-torn Israel to meet with Israeli officials, soldiers in the battle, survivors of the unprovoked Hamas terrorist massacre of civilians, and families of hostages that were taken by Hamas on October the 7th. I've been traveling to Israel for over 50 years. My first trip there was in July of 1973. I've been there close to 100 times. I've taken thousands of people there on pilgrimage. I've been there during conflicts, including an intifada and the 2014 war with Gaza. But this trip was unlike any other I've taken. Joel Rosenberg, the best-selling author and host of the Rosenberg Report, right here on TBN, co-hosted a small delegation that included former Senator and Governor of Kansas and U.S. Ambassador Sam Brownback, former U.S. Ambassador Ken Blackwell, and Skip Heitzig, Samaritan's Purse board member, and his wife, Lenya Heitzig, a noted author and speaker. While on the flight there on El Al Airlines, which is the only airline flying into Israel from the U.S. right now, a flight attendant recognized me and hugged me for traveling there to show support. And a couple whose 22-year-old son, who's also an American citizen and has been held hostage since October the 7th, came to me on the plane to thank me for going and standing with Israel. They gave me a dog tag in honor of their son, who they had not heard from or about in over 74 days at that time. I have worn it since then. It's on me now, and it's going to stay on me until he comes home to them. Hostages from over 25 countries in every religion were taken hostage by Hamas. A hostage village was set up in Tel Aviv. Families can gather there. People of Israel go and pray for those families. I found the poster for Omer Nutra. That's the young man whose parents I had met the day before on the flight. I took a picture of me standing with the poster of their son, and I sent it to them and said I won't forget him. That day, we also met with several families whose loved ones are being held hostage. It was heartbreaking to hear firsthand their grief, uncertainty, and bewilderment as to why their children, brothers, or their parents had been taken from them. They all hope for the best, but understandably fear the worst. We visited the front lines of the war zone and walked through the devastated kibbutz of Kfar Aza, one of the first communities savagely attacked by Hamas. The barbarian atrocities that were inflicted upon babies, little children, young families, and elderly people, most of them are unmentionable on TV. You've heard some of the ways that Hamas sought to murder, mutilate, rape, and humiliate civilian Jews who were simply waking up on a Shabbat morning to the sound of bullets, bombs, and rockets. But it actually was much worse. The uncivilized and crazed killing was made worse by the fact that the terrorists of Hamas wore cameras on their bodies to record the slaughter and celebrate it with great glee. Imagine how depraved one must be to place a live baby in an oven in front of its parents and to joyfully murder the entire family, children first, then the parents, but only after violently raping the females and mutilating their bodies. And with body parts and dead bodies strewn about the blood-stained homes, demon-filled Hamas terrorists then casually raided refrigerators and cabinets for food or just went through their homes for possessions of value. And when the so-called peaceful Palestinians from Gaza knew that the villages had been neutralized from any living Jew, they themselves crossed over and looted the homes, even while the corpse of the families were still there. These folks had to step across the butchered bodies to grab what valuables they could steal from the very people those monsters had just killed hours earlier. I met with an Israeli major who I'd met last August when he escorted me through the military base where the military dogs are trained. These highly trained dogs are a major part of the forward operating mission to root out Hamas cowards who are hiding in the tunnels of Gaza. I also met with my dear friend and the CEO of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, Yael Eckstein, who you see on our show because the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is one of our show's faithful partners. While at lunch in Tel Aviv, sirens forced us to take cover in the bomb shelter at the restaurant where we were having lunch. We could hear the Israeli Iron Dome defense system intercept Hamas rockets overhead that were intended to kill Jewish civilians. Thank God the Iron Dome worked. Israelis deal with that several times a day, every single day. Once was enough for me. I also met with my longtime friend, the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. I assured him of the support of the Christian community of America for Israel and the Jewish people during this time of need. I personally can't think of anyone who could better lead Israel during this critical threat to their existence than this Prime Minister. Well, the trip was so intense, I didn't have time to process all I had seen and heard. And it was not until I got home did the emotional impact begin to sink in. Throughout the Christmas festivities with my church and family, I sometimes suddenly was just filled with unexplained emotion and fought back tears hidden deep in my soul that were there for many of my Jewish and Israeli friends who were going through a living hell that erupted from the very heart of Satan. We're witnessing something that isn't political. It's not social, economic, or geographical. It is a spiritual war of evil versus good. And my only comfort is in reading the end of the book and knowing that in the end, God overcomes. Evil, death, and hate will be forevermore relegated to an everlasting hell. And those of us who have placed our trust in our very lives in the hands of the one God, the true God, will forever experience an everlasting life. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I hope you will now. The button is just below this video, and there's a little bell next to it. If you click on those, YouTube will reluctantly start letting you know when we've got a new video uploaded.